ulodumanda basembelembeleni ulodumanda basemambondweni ayethe wena phakathi ayethe wena phakathi phezu komkhono ngekuthunywa ngawe emakhosi luthango lonke libutho libhekeke ukuthi livunule umhelwane lobovu ngalomgcibelo bese ngelisondo livunula umhelwane orange libutho-ke lingagqoke amabhadubhadu bese sewuyonakala umsebenzi wenkosi alibe lihle nje liphume libe lihle bekunene phebo phezulu kwemkhono ayethe wena phakathi.
Good evening and welcome to the news. I'm Sadipo Ngoan. I'm with Nomakabe Songambule live from the Hospital Hill Studios in Babane. Thank you so much for choosing to stay with us. First, the headlines. The Minister of Home Affairs is negotiating with her South African counterpart to increase the operating hours for Lavomisa border gate, possibly to 24 hours. The Minister of Education continues to ensure that schools receive food under the school's feeding program. And the Ministry of Natural Resources, in collaboration with other stakeholders, has received Mananga gauging station from a South African company. And now the news in detail. The Minister of Home Affairs, Honorable Princess Lindy, was negotiating with her South African counterpart to increase the operating hours for Lavomisa border gate, possibly to 24 hours, to increase the smooth flow of business in an effort to increase trade. The minister said this during a tour of the World Bank with different stakeholders at the Oshuk border gate.
I also want to thank the Border Management Authority and SARS and everyone who contributed to the opening of the 24-hour border operation here in Oshuk. Great achievement for the country, a great achievement for business for both countries, because this is profiting both Eswatini and South Africa. Everyone is happy. I'm sure now revenue has hiked up for both countries. And now that we are done with the 24-hour operation in Oshuk, now our cry is 24-hour operation in Lavomisa. Can we make it happen? Because when business comes in this side, they are stuck. They can't flow to the Natal side. So that frustrates business and also frustrates the tour operators, tourism. They're stuck here, they can't move. Sometimes they divert and go to Mozambique. Even if they want to go to Natal, they divert and go to Mozambique.
The Border Management Authority of South Africa says they are looking into the minister's request.
I mean, there is nothing really that we are disagreeing on. Minister, maybe just to also say, we had some working groups yesterday, and we're basically engaging on the issues, just beyond immigration. We're looking at issues about health, issues about agriculture, for instance, and look at the kind of protocols that we have that doesn't seem to be aligned and things like that. And we're saying, but Why do we have these things that are not aligned? You know, if we talk about requirements, how do we make sure that our requirements really talk to each other? You know, at the end of the day, just to make sure that there is that seamless movement of persons as well as goods between our jurisdictions, because it stands as our, you know, as our interest, you know, at the end of the day. So on that basis, we are really very much grateful, and we commit from our side, working together with our colleagues from SARS as well as the Cross-Border Road Transport Agency, which is also here. We are definitely committing that we are not going to be having some just general diplomatic jamborees. We are going to have serious engagement with the view of being practical and being taking decisive decisions within the existing policy framework.
Dr. Masiapato says there are a lot of areas of collaboration between Eswatini and South Africa which need to be explored. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla with Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Ngwenya.
The United Nations Resident Coordinator George Wachira says the UN is committed to supporting Eswatini achieve sustainable development. The UN Resident Coordinator was speaking when reacting to the speech from the throne delivered at the official opening of the first session of the 12th Parliament.
In a press statement on Tuesday, United Nations Resident Coordinator in Eswatini George Wachira uploaded His Majesty King Mswati III speech from the throne delivered at the official opening of the first session of the 12th Parliament. He says His Majesty's speech spanned several critical issues which are key in improving the welfare of the people and progress of the Kingdom of Eswatini, and demonstrate a resolve to address the concerns raised by citizens at Sibaya last year. Wachira says His Majesty also reaffirmed Eswatini's commitment to global agendas, including the Sustainable Development Goals SDGs and the African Union Agenda 2063. He says the UN notes in particular His Majesty's focus on the need to grow the economy, infrastructure development, particularly in ICT, improving the business environment, especially for SMEs, resolving the challenges hindering access to quality healthcare, tackling youth unemployment through quality education, entrepreneurship, and skills development. He says yet again His Majesty spoke clearly and strongly about ending the scourge of gender-based violence. He says as the government takes up the task of translating into programs and implementing the directives contained in His Majesty's speech, the United Nations remains steadfast in its commitment to support Eswatini's vision of prosperous and sustainable future in line with the objectives of the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework for 2021 to 2025. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samkal Suekosa Mbabane.
The Minister of Education continues to ensure that schools receive food under the school's feeding program. The Acting Director of Education, Lungelo Nhlengetwe, says before the month end, all schools would have received the food.
Ministry of Education continues to deliver food in schools under the school's feeding program. When schools opened a couple of weeks ago, some schools received the food, though not all. The Acting Director of Education, Lungelo Nhlengetwe, says in no time before month end, schools would have received food.
Close to half of the schools are delivered ukudla. Sibheke ukuthi makuphela February sibe sesiqedile. According to information esiyitholile kulo supplier walo sistephela ukudla. Lokhu ngathi khamba kancane lamabhontshisi. Ngiwo la ngasi ayatefa but sesiwatholile sesidakhwala kwafuqa etikolweni. Yes, the nombolo ya both primary and high schools, yes.
Nhlengetwe says according to a report he got, schools are receiving the food. It is only beans that they have an issue with where there is shortage, but they will sort that as well soon. He says with understanding that some learners get their first and last meal at school due to poverty, they will ensure food is delivered as soon as possible. Reporting MKN MCB with Samuel Suekoza, Manzini.
EPIS Director Sabelo Dlamini says it is of their best interest to adhere to the international standards of broadcasting in order to provide accurate and meaningful information to the nation, which will improve the country as a whole. Dlamini was speaking during the commemoration of the International Radio Day.
Awuno umphefumulo sophilile bandla sophilile umphefumulo lomhlanje nekuseni This year, EBIS took its legendary broadcasters back for a day just to showcase what they used to do during their times as part of commemorating this special day.
Vele kufuna tinto letikhulunywako noma letivelako emsakatweni kube tinto letinebuqiniso netinto letakhako because of understanding ukuthi bumcoka be-radio in most communities bunganani.
Sabelo Dlamini, who is the EBIS director, says they are working hard towards reaching international standards of broadcasting.
Nalo kusesiphila esikhatsini lana there are many competing new media platforms, but nesingumsakato sitmisela ukuthi sichubeke sisale singlo msakato lo credible, lot truthful, not necessarily the first to the news, but the first to truthful and credible news.
Sibusiso Mgadi, who is the UN Communications Officer, says radio can be a mediator for information as per SDG.
The emphasis, Director, will recognize lobumcoka be-radio. Despite all the things that we are calling modernization, technology, and all of that, radio has stood the test of time.
With Babyface, the track Keeps Falling. You should check out the video. It's quite cute because it features a comedian.
UNESCO reported that over 4 million people in the world listen to radio. Reporting for Eswatini TV, I am Poguhle Dlamini with Smuva Shongwe in Mbabane.
The Ministry of Education has introduced a web-based education management information system for schools. This was said by EMIS, Information Technology Administrator Mfankona Ngambule, during a training of schools on the new system.
The primary mandate of the Ministry of Education and Training is to provide access to relevant quality education at all levels to all citizens, taking into account all the issues of efficiency, equity, and special needs. On the same note, the Ministry of Education and Training, through the Education Management Information System Unit, EMIS, is currently training Lubombo region teachers on the new web-based EMIS system. EMIS Information Technology Administrator Mfankona Ngambule says this new system is critical to closing existing gaps in education planning frameworks.
System web-based.
The ministry has introduced a web-based education management information for improved efficiency. The Education Management Information System Unit is used to manually send forms to schools to fill up information on enrollment and other education-based information which delayed other planning processes within the ministry. With this new system, data collection will be timely.
Into the system.
The trainees will also be given tools to collect education management information, and the Ministry of Education will be training teachers from schools under the Wowo region next week. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samkal Suekoza with Gianim Sibi Manzini.
The Minister of Education says no child should be sent home for owing school fees. The Minister of Education assembled the head teachers under the Manzini region to empower them on education policies.
All schools, including private schools, are expected to adhere and follow the guidelines of the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education gathered school principals under the Manzini regions to remind them on policies as well as school guide and reporting channels. The acting director of education, Lungadon Hlengedwa, says the issue of absenteeism of head teachers who come once in a while in school can lead to dismissal.
The policy top up. Kule top up sikhuluma indaba yokuthi uma ngabe isikole asidinga ukucharge top up kufuna ukuthi bathole imvume ku-minister.
He says one important issue is that of policies, including the issue of top-up fees, where head teachers are reminded that they cannot just charge top-up fees anyhow. They're expected to follow the correct guidelines of charging the top-up fees. Also, all visitors cannot be chased from class for owing school fees.
Education ifanele encourage ukuthishela bafunze Because laba botishela labafundzile la sikolweni even up to PhD.
I have a very much a concern kakhulu ekuthomela phakagrades. Baqalise bafike kusigaba. Angathi noma babhakamile. Bathatha certificate dakagrades.
So there is competition contracts.
He says they belong to the government. Government will eventually pay. The school's principals had questions including the grade 0 class, where some parents are alleged to forge grade 0 certificates. Some say the education system must motivate teachers by adding salary where need be to qualifying teachers with masters and PhDs. The school guides and reporting channels, as per the TSC regulation of 1983, section 14 to 18, emphasizes on moral behavior for teachers. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I am Kian Msibi with Samuel Siwekoza at Mfanyana Hall, Manzini.
The Registrar of Companies, Msebe Malinge, says the draft Companies Bill of 2023 is meant to make setting up of a business easier for all Emaswati as well as conducting business in the country. The Registrar said this in response to His Majesty King Mswati III's call to make the registration of companies easier by implementing digital solutions. His Majesty said this when opening the 12th Parliament on Friday.
The bill, the Companies Bill, introduces now an electronic company registration service. So it's a complete registration service now, whereby even the updates of companies will be done electronically. And we wanted to have that in the legal framework, in the legislation, so that we are not just doing it as an improvement, but we are bound by the legal framework to have these services provided to the public or our clients. The bill also introduces a what we call a universal company now. Currently, we have two types of companies, private company and a public company. So in trying to simplify, again, the environment, the business, the doing business environment, we are now introducing a universal company. So there'll be one type of company. Why are we doing that? Most often you find that private companies are limited in raising capital and in sourcing funds or capital. So if we have one type of, as opposed to public companies who have the liberty of raising capital, advertising for their shares, and raising capital in all other means that they can afford. We also are introducing what we call a constitution now, a company constitution, as opposed to articles of association, a very difficult component of the companies, and that the articles of association are actually difficult to interpret and to follow as one is doing business. So we're trying to introduce now a constitution in simple English for everyone to understand as they continue to do business and dealing with their companies. Also, the liquidation process has been simplified in the bill.
And B. Welcome back, and now in our sports news, the Eswatini Hockey Association has introduced junior national teams, both males and females. This past weekend, under-19 national teams continued with their training ahead of the regional competition in Johannesburg, South Africa in April this year.
Eswatini Hockey Federation ran a successful meeting a couple of weeks ago, trying to restore
this trial. So we're expecting that we will have more players as we move on. But today, it's not bad. It's a good turn-up for the first session for 2024.
Lisha Lovely and Rory Thompson, who are some of the players amongst the under-19 squads, are sharing their experiences so far.
The surface is quite easy to play on because the ball doesn't bounce like it does here and all the holes in the grass. But it's just difficult because you're not used to dragging and hitting it. Like there's a specific pass that you do, which you don't practice. But otherwise, it's quite nice, and it's a very nice experience.
It's tough. It's definitely tough out here, the heat. Yeah, but it's good. Really good for you. And 2 hours, 30 minutes of training, it's pretty good.
The journey seemed to be a promising one, with the next move being a recruitment of more players in the other regions of the country. For Eswatini TV Sports, Wabesum Sonera with Linda Lamini, Markens.
Eswatini Olympic and Commonwealth Games Association has introduced 11 athletes to represent the country in this year's All-Africa Games to be staged in Accra, Ghana from the 8th to the 23rd of March this year. The 11 athletes are from 5 sporting codes.
La khona ka athletics sinema athletes lamabili. Sinasibusiso Matsenjwa.
Speaking during a press briefing, Eswatini Olympic and Commonwealth Games Association Chief Executive Officer Maxwell Jele announced a team of 11 athletes from 5 sporting courts. Under athletics, there is Subsiso Matsenjwa, Bongyo Matlalera, who will be headed by coach Toba Mazibuko. Under swimming, there is Smanga Dlamini as an athlete and only Welcome Hlabatsi as the head coach. Under boxing, there is Tabiso Dlamini, Smongsen Shongwe, both athletes who will be accompanied by coach Mozi Shongwe. Under karate, there is Melusi Dlamini and Lwazi Dlamini, both athletes who will be accompanied by coach Victor Gwebu. Under taekwondo, there is Kalota Manuva, Wandile Mazia, Sivunisiwe Dlamini, Ngosinati Mtembo. Sizwe Mabuza will accompany the team as the athlete coach, while Mangoba Motsa will be the head coach of the team. The team will be headed by Chief de Mission Zakeri Zulu, who will be assisted by General Team Manager Zamatsabetse and physiotherapist Nomvulo Dlamini. The games begin on the 8th to the 23rd of March this year, with the team costing a budget of 1.7 million emalangeni.
La khona Sizwe Mabuza kanye naNkosinathi Mtembu. Coach waka taekwondo ke nguManqoba Motsa.
With those sports news, we hit the home stretch of the news bulletin. But before we go, this is a quick reminder of news-making headlines tonight. The Minister of Home Affairs is negotiating with her South African counterpart to increase the operating hours for Lavumisa border gate, possibly to 24 hours. The Minister of Education continues to ensure that schools receive food under the school's feeding program. And the Minister of Natural Resources, in collaboration with other stakeholders, has received a Mananga grading station from a South African company. Beautiful kingdom of Eswatini, we come to the conclusion of the news. We shall now cross over to the Weather Center for a detailed weather report from us and the team here at Eswatini TV. For now, it's good night and God bless.